Mark, we're back again, another episode of Strategy and Conversions. We're now on episode 9.
My God.
Yeah, we're getting there, aren't we? You know, it's just more and more every week. I can't wait to record episode 10. I think to me, 10 is that magic number. That is that
That'll
first
be a
milestone.
milestone. That will be a milestone, that's for sure.
Again, so we've covered a lot, obviously, in the past episodes. And last week was a big one where we talked about life goals and using a business as a vehicle.
Yeah.
So I know you're really passionate about that. And like I said, that's something that I learned from you, you know, a good few years back and started to put that into play. And another thing that I learned from you, like back then with the whole kind of, you know, in your seminars, is that it's all around productivity and how to understand what you have on for the day and how to take advantage of it, you know, and break it down into little chunks and stuff like that. So I think today's episode would be really good to go into some of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's really, really interesting. Just something I just suddenly thought of as well is that Darren Hardy came out, has a productivity thing. I think a training or whatever. And he always went, the way you win the day is to plan the night before.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? You know, yeah. I think that's, I know what you mean now. I think it is because of like living your greatest life or something like that. I think it's
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. So mate, what we're going to talk about, we're from that seminar and the kind of productivity and stuff like that, is we're going to talk about putting rocks into jars, right?
Oh yeah.
That's what we're going to get into. But just before we do, I guess looking at productivity like as a whole, I guess it's one of those things that we all have a to-do list.
Yeah.
We all have things that we need to do. And it seems to always be growing and never kind of, you know, getting to where we want to. What do you think really goes on with that? Where do we make the mistakes?
I think, well, it's all sorts of, I mean, it causes stress anyway when it's continually growing. And you're right, you'll never get to the bottom of it. And I think it's down to prioritizing that to-do list as well. And it's still a very, very basic concept. So the first thing is to prioritize that and then realize that you actually only have a certain amount of productive time every day. And if you can really focus on certain chunks of the day, then you'll get an awful lot done. So this is where the whole 90-minute chunking thing comes in that we've talked about earlier. And I know that's something that you've learned and started to use, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think that really helped me is that, like you said, that kind of time chunking for productivity works really well. Because I think what we do sometimes is, even if we kind of prioritize what we need to do, is we kind of just list out and we're going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and doing all what we need to do. But obviously we can only do so much within a certain amount of time. And we can only put so much effort to a certain amount of time. And obviously using that time to put different tasks in and get them done, it works really well. And I guess this is where that whole kind of concept of putting the rocks into jars comes in.
Yeah. So that was an experiment done. Well, it was done with some students, and it's become quite a famous analogy now. But if you have a certain amount of sand and a certain amount, so sand are the kind of the trivial things that have to be done every day. You know, taking the dog for a walk or putting the milk bottles out, or whatever. Yeah. And then the pebbles are the more of the stuff that. The smaller tasks you have to do, you've got to make a phone call, you've got to book this, you've got to do this. And then you have these big rocks, and the rocks are those big chunks of time that you need to spend on something and get it done properly. And if you put the sand in the jar first and then put in the pebbles and then try and put in the rocks, it doesn't fit. Yeah. You won't get all the rocks in. But if you go the other way around and you put in the big giant rocks first, then drop in the pebbles around them, the pebbles will naturally fall around the rocks, and then pour in the sand, which naturally filters down. It all fits. So the whole concept of that is the rocks are the big things that you need, that you know that you need to spend a really good focused time on. And in the time management thing we're talking about, those are the kind of your chunks of the day. And a mentor showed me this a while back, and I really grabbed onto it. And that's to structure your day into 90-minute chunks. Normally, about 4 chunks a day will fill up most of your day, and you'll be able to focus on it so much you'll get an awful lot of things done. And then, if you give yourself little bits of time around those chunks, like half an hour to do this, half an hour maybe to grab a cup of tea or whatever, a coffee. in that time, you might be able to make do the pebbles, the little phone calls, and just make a couple of those, so some of the pebbles get done as well. And then the little sand job, the trivial stuff, is so easy. You might be able to do 2 or 3 of those in that little break, and all of a sudden, your productivity. You look at what you've done, you sort of think, wow, it's amazing how much you've focused on this job, you've got this done, and you've managed to do some other little bits and pieces around. And this is the whole point about, as Darren Hardy sort of says, and other people, this: if you plan the night before what your big rocks are, you still have a to-do list of all this stuff, but you don't stress over your to-do list, because it's the rocks you concentrate on, and then it's the bits on the to-do list are normally the little rubbish jobs that you can then fit around all those rocks.
No, totally. I think as well, you have like Brian Tracy has the book about Eat That Frog, and it's the same concept, isn't it? Is that you get rid of those big tasks. Those tasks that you've put off, you get rid of those. And I guess from whichever kind of an analogy or metaphor, whatever it is you want to take, like for me, the big part of it is that those rocks, those big tasks, they're quite stressful. So it's like the longer you leave it to do them, they're always going to be there, but they're causing you more stress. And I think it can be easy to do the kind of sand sort of tasks, right? And we can tick that off of our list and everything, and get it done. Yeah. And we feel good that we're actually making progress, but really we're not. No, because those sand jobs are just the little kind of things that we just need to do. But those rocks are what really turns the wheels of our business, right?
Yeah, and that is absolutely right. So if we do the pebbles and the sand and leave the rocks, all of a sudden it builds up into this massively urgent thing we've got to do. And you go back to university days when people and they cram all weekend to cram in enough knowledge for the exam, because that was a rock thing that they always ignored because it scared them. And as you said with the Brian Tracy thing, Eat That Frog, is that these are big jobs. So you do it when you've got high energy. You don't do them when you've got low energy late at night. Or it depends if you're a night person. So whatever your day is, this is the whole point about planning. I know web designers who they don't even get up till about 11, but their day goes on till 11 at night, and they're productive at night. Now, that's beyond me. I couldn't do that. But the whole idea is that you do a 90-minute chunk when you've got high energy level, and your energy level is going to deplete. But the sand and the pebble jobs don't take much energy. So as you're taking a break and just re-energizing yourself, the fact you do a couple of these small little jobs actually gives you a bit more energy. You think, wow, I've done that. Yeah. So then you go on to the next frog, if you like, if you want to call it that. And all the time you're taking those breaks between them, doing those other things and doing those other sand and pebble jobs. And by the end of the day, you actually feel quite energized, because not only have you hit these big things, but you've done a lot of this rubbish on your to-do list that you now can tick through. That's nothing better than ticking through a job, is it?
You've
done that one. And it's kind of like success, and then that's how you feel at the end of the day.
I was just thinking as well, then, even the likes of, someone who's working, in employment, working in a job, is that, they have the exact same thing as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is that, it may be a case of, like you said, in the morning, maybe they're not a morning person. Maybe it takes them that first kind of chunk is just getting to grips with everything, and then they kind of spring in. Or the opposite is where, do you know what, they're really good until lunch, and then after lunch, there's no point to it, So it is just fitting it into your day. So whether it's a case of you're employed or you're running your own business or even something else, I guess, even if it's something that you're working towards, so we've said a few times about kind of like running a marathon or something like that, and taking different steps towards it, is that, well, look, if you feel that you're better, putting in the training at certain times, then, that makes sense to do it. Something you mentioned, Amit, I really like there. There is some sort of name for it, some sort of concept, but like you said about students and stuff like that, cramming before an exam. I think there's something to that, is that whatever kind of time frame we have to do a task, we will basically wait until there's not enough time to do it.
Yeah. And it's I think it's the I can't remember the guy's name now, but it's Hutchinson, I think. But the whole idea is that if we've got a certain amount of time to do something, we'll always wait until the 11th hour to try and get it done. And the idea is to give us full, kind of like give ourselves false deadlines, so we do things way before. Interesting, there's Stephen Covey's got a thing called the Covey Quadrant, and that is actually almost doing that same kind of thing, and it's split into four different squares. And the square number one is where you don't want to be, is where everything is urgent and needs to be done. It's important and urgent, needs to be done immediately, and that's when you're panicking. Oh my god, rabbit in the headlights.
You don't want those things, right?
No, you don't want those. So you don't want anything in there. And what he's saying is in box number 2, which is ideal, which is where it's important. There are things to be done, like the big rocks, but at that time they're not urgent. So you're not stressing about how urgent they are. But if you get them done now, then it's an important job out of the way, and 2, the urgency's gone, and you just feel so much better about it. So have a look at the time management matrix in the 7.
Yeah, I like it. I think the good thing with that as well is you get those tasks that they're not important. So
that's the sand and the pebbles.
Yeah, but it's like some of these things as well that like you have to do them. Like that you need to do them. This is more so if you're in your business and stuff like that. These are things that have to be done. However, these are the things that can be outsourced, or you can bring someone in to deal with. And it's like where is your time more productive?
Yeah, and that's kind of a different ball game altogether, isn't it? You say, okay, instead of me doing all this stuff, what can I delegate? You've got this whole task list, and one of the big questions is to go through that and say, what do I have to do on this? What is it? What is it that only I can do, and what can other people do? Can they do it better than me even? So it could be that something you look at, one of the rocks you look at is actually, it may not be your rock, it could be someone else's. But it could be that loads of the pebbles and the sand, you can just think, do you know what? I can just ask someone to just do all the pebbles for me, and just get those out of the way. So delegation is, that's another ball game altogether. But
I'm guessing what I mean from that is that once you kind of plan out your days, and even more so, I guess looking at that kind of journaling side of your day, what has taken up my time, what has happened, has this been a good use of my time? Well, actually doing that, you can't work out what really needs to be delegated and stuff like that. Or you can guess, I guess, of those kind of things that other people can do. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you may see these things that are coming up all the time. You're like, God, I've got to do that. I've got to do that. When it's just like, do you know what? I guess coming back to marketing, for example, the whole kind of social media stuff and posting on social media, those kind of things are where people sort of do, their head is done in by that. And it's like every day I've got to post on social media, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Where actually they could schedule in some time during the week to actually do the whole kind of post for next week. It takes that pressure off. And I think that's a big thing with the kind of productivity side. It's taking the pressure off of yourself. I think that to me is the big thing, is we put so much pressure on ourselves to get things done, when, like, do you know what, sometimes it doesn't even need to be done.
Well, that is absolutely true as well. But that's interesting what you're saying about social media and the scheduling, because you can take 10, 15 pebble jobs, which are the daily post, create a rock out of them, which is, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to schedule all the posts. I'm going to take 90 minutes, or however, 90 minutes is an idea, to schedule as many posts as I can. And all of a sudden, what you've done is you've got that rock out of the way. You've done this, but all of a sudden you can tick through all these pebble jobs, because they were things that were just always, annoying. Oh, I've got to post on social media. Automate it. There's plenty of scheduling tools around nowadays for social media. Before anyone, jumps in and stuff like that, I mean that we are, advocates of social media being social and taking advantage of it, and using it that way. But also is that there is that element of recognition marketing, of your awareness and your authority, of just opening up your shop each day, which being on social media means that you're posting and showing people that you're about. So it's like that kind of stuff can be done. But like something you said there, mate, where I love that. It's like you're taking a load of pebbles and you're forming it into a rock, and it's like you can get more, you can get them all done within one go. I'm actually thinking the opposite as well, is that you've got a rock, well, look, break it down into pebbles. Yeah, that can be done as to exactly that point as well. So, when it comes down to, when you start to analyze what's got to be done, I mean, it can be sorted out that way, because everything in business, isn't it? Everything you do in business is a project, really, if you think about it. There's always an end goal. I've got to do these different things to get there. So if you have a rock that's got lots of little pieces in it, then break it down. so that they become more pebbles that can be fit around the other rocks that actually are one job and have got to be done one time. But it's the project management is where it's so vital is, and project management always says, isn't it? Break down your big project to the smallest possible task, and then you just you do the first task, second task, and so it goes on a kind of it creates a snowball effect of creating those tasks. So of course it can be broken down. I mean that's what the slight edge is all about, and compound effect, isn't it? With
I guess that's exactly it, mate, isn't it? It's just doing the things which are manageable and building them up to complete the actual goal that you're looking to achieve. I think that's awesome. I think, do you have any kind of, I guess I was going to say, any kind of tips and stuff like that? And I know that we've been through some different kind of concepts there of how people can do it, and I guess everyone's a bit different. But where does someone start?
Well, I think that is when you it's quite glaringly obvious, but it's very, very difficult to start with a lot of people. So don't start with planning your job. Start with thinking about when do I have the most energy in the day. So it's all about, because time, you can't manage time. Everyone says you can't manage time, and you can't, but you can manage your energy, and that's the whole point. So when I have the most, when am I energized the most, so that I can get things done, I can focus on something, and when is it? I mean, for me, this is about sort of 6 at night. When am I just like my brain becomes jelly and I can't do anything? You don't plan a big job when your brain's like jelly. So you start to work out when is the times I'm most productive, when I'm really energetic and get stuff done. And then you work out the hours of the day where that can be. Then they think, right, okay, those are the times I do the rocks, and start that way. And then the other things, like I said, they take no energy. Sometimes it's a faff, but when you've got to make that one phone call, it probably is a 2-minute phone call, and just do it, and when you've got a big job out of the way, it doesn't take much energy, but you think, right, I can now just make that quick phone call and then grab a cup of coffee. You've done the phone call, you've then you're having a break, and all of a sudden your productivity is increasing, even though you haven't really thought that it was, but you've just put more into it because you're doing those silly jobs when you don't have that much energy, and the big jobs that require a lot of thought process. That's because brain I can't remember what the metabolic rate of the brain is, but apparently it's huge when you're deep in thought. So that's when you need your energy.
I was just going to say, actually, it's interesting. I mean, yesterday we had a call, and I can remember messaging you just before saying, let's put it back quarter of an hour because I need to take a break. And it's like, I went against my kind of the way how I kind of use my day for productivity, because something that we're working on, and from about, say, 7 o'clock in the morning till about 2 o'clock, I was working on this, and like time just went past. And it's just, I was absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
And it's like not physically, but just mentally.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I couldn't even, I was just, I need to take quarter of an hour before we can even have a chat. And it's like, and that's the thing is that, you get these kind of, these kind of phrases that you need to hustle and you need to grind and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's all really good if you do it in short spurts.
Yeah.
Rather than it always happening, because you're just going to burn yourself up.
You do burn out.
And it's not, and the thing is that side is awful, obviously burning yourself up, but also is that your quality becomes less.
Oh, absolutely. This was apparent. I mean, when I used to work as a finance manager in one of my previous jobs, this was so apparent. I mean, if I was doing a job late at night, sometimes you stay behind and do stuff. It would take a job that would take me an hour during the day when I had the most energy, would probably take me 3. And then you come in the morning, you look at it, you think, oh my God, the amount of errors in it, So it wasn't even worth it. I mean, this where people stay in an office and work till, God knows what hours sometime. I've got to get this done. I've got to get this done. When actually, when they realize that actually I have no energy, no kind of clarity of thought at 10 o'clock at night, but I tell you what, I do at 7 in the morning. So, the kind of difference is, I'll tell you what I can do. I can do this in the morning because I know I can get it done really quickly, really well as well, really efficiently. And they don't, and it's kind of like, it takes the stress away. You say, right, okay, It's no good me trying to do that this time of night. Let's make a move. And again, for business owners, is the same. So, as we've talked about before, what happens in business owners when they first start up? They trade their 7-hour day working day to about a 15-hour working day, and then they're trying to still do jobs on the 14th and 15th hour, and there's no way it's going to get done properly. So don't. Just give yourself some time. You need a rest as well as you don't become superhuman just when you decide to start a business. I think that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that, and it is interesting, isn't it, that you want to start a business to have the freedom, compared to when you were in the job. Actually, especially straight away, you don't have that freedom. No. There's a lot of work that has to go into getting a lot more stress and a lot more risk and stuff like that you have to just obviously go through those steps to get to that point where it is a sustainable business, and obviously, like you said, you can not so much pick and choose, but you can make it work for you. I think that's such a big thing, is that I think with something that I learned a lot over the past kind of few years is that it's not so much about the kind of time and the hard work and stuff like that you put in. It's the value that you can actually give.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's that story, isn't there, that I don't know, I'm probably going to get this wrong now. I think it's a ship, and it's like the ship doesn't work, and it's like they get these engineers in and stuff like that, and nothing really happens, and then someone comes in, and all they do is they hit a hammer in a certain place, and the ship starts working, the engine starts working on the ship, and then they get a bill through for, like, say $15,000, and they're like, it only took you 2 minutes, and it's like, yeah, but it took me 15 years to know where to hit.
Exactly right. Absolutely right.
That kind of thing is like, yeah, okay, look, it's the value that you can actually bring. Yeah. But I think sometimes people they take time. How much time can you give me? Or how much time is this going to be? Or how much stuff? And it's just like, we don't need more stuff. We just need a result.
And this is maybe a totally different podcast. But the thing is, and it's a bit of a cliche, the one thing you can't replace is time. Mm-hmm. And why waste 4 hours trying to do something when you think, do you know what? I can get Joe in here and I'm sure he can do this in half an hour. Yeah, I might have to pay him a little bit, but half an hour means I've got 3.5 hours now to do something else that really is going to bring some income in, or do the stuff. And that's so many businesses, when they start up, they get so paranoid that I can't afford to get somebody in to do this. But the trouble is, they can't replace. You can't replace your time. You can replace money. We've said this. You can make money quickly online. There's so many ways that we can actually help people to make their first sort of 10 quid, if you like.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Is that sometimes, like I said in previous podcasts, is that money becomes irrelevant. It's like, as long as you understand the processes and the concept, it means that you can generate the outcome. Whatever that outcome is, you can decide. The same as, a few podcasts back ago, we spoke about this, where I remember we had this conversation going back a few months ago as well, where it's like that you can spend all this time and effort on a low paying customer with the same amount of time and effort on a higher paying customer. Yeah. So, why waste time?
Yeah, why waste the time?
And stuff like that. But yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Some of the stuff that you can do just to kind of increase your productivity, your time, or to get someone else in just to help you. And what I really take from that is, sometimes things that would take you 4 hours to do may take someone else an hour to do.
Yeah.
It's like, how much do you put on your time, your hourly rate?
Well, that's the truth. Yeah.
There's a guy that I can't really call him a mentor, I guess, but I've kind of learned stuff from him over the years. There's a guy called James Schranko. He's in Australia, and he's got this whole phrase about own the race course. And what he's saying is stop kind of using the platforms out there and stuff like that. Create your own kind of place where you can obviously create your income. But he's got this tool. I can't really think what it's called now, but it works out your hourly rate.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's like, so what you kind of do is you put in how much you've made, within a space of time. So say you want to take like a month or a year or whatever it is, how much you've made, then how much time you actually put into it, and it gives you your hourly rate. And I think anyone who does that initially has a shock.
Yeah.
Because going back to, like we were saying, people maybe leave a job to work for themselves and have more freedom, but they end up working twice as long or something like that to end up with half of the money from an hourly rate,
And it's interesting because I know I was talking to you earlier about this, but I wrote a blog a while back, and it was just about that, is that many people leave a job because there's certain aspects of the job they don't like. They maybe don't like being managed by that particular person. So they leave a job thinking, I'm going to go self-employed. I can do this myself. I can create freedom. And what they actually do is they build themselves a cage, because for exactly that, they're now not getting any money, no guaranteed income. They're doing everything. They're not just doing this one job. They've now got to look after their books. They've got to manage their marketing. They've got to do this. They've got to do that. And all of a sudden they're taking on 6 jobs where they had one. They aren't getting paid. So it's how small are you building a cage, and how difficult is it to get out of? And sometimes you have to think about the job. Yeah, there's certain things I don't like about it. But if you really love that monthly income check coming in, then what else can I do that provides a further income while I still carry on my job? We were talking about this, weren't we?
I'm just thinking there as well, like something else we were talking about that, is such a good kind of way of thinking. Is like people that, they kind of say, oh yeah, I've been in business for 5 years or something like that. And it's like, okay, have you been in business for 5 years, or have you just been repeating the same year in business for 5 years?
Racking one, yeah.
And there's such a big difference there.
Yeah.
And it's like that kind of, like we always talk about it, business is always kind of, it needs to be progressing,
yes,
be moving forward all the time and stuff like that. Whereas if you're just repeating that same kind of year, and don't get me wrong, there's that area of sustainability that you want to get to a certain level and make sure it's achievable and then build on top. But if you're just repeating the same thing, and especially if it's causing you stress and all this kind of stuff, then what's the point?
Yeah. And again, coming back to books like, The Slight Age and everything, in business, there is no straight line. You're either growing, even if it's very, very tiny and the slope seems very, very low, you're still growing. You're either growing or your business is declining. There isn't such a thing as that kind of point of inertia, that straight line. So that sustainability means you still are growing to a certain extent. It's like treading water in you're swimming. If you stop treading water, you go under the water. So you're not getting anywhere by treading water, but you're keeping yourself afloat. So you're always expending some kind of effort to get there. And I think the problem is that a lot of businesses don't realize that you always need to be growing at some pace. It doesn't have to be massive growth. It's what's right for you. But if it's sustainability, you have to determine that what is that little inch, if you like, of growth, as opposed to this whole foot of moving it up. So that you always have to be that. There always has to be that growth there.
It's so big, isn't it? I know we touched on this last week with the whole kind of life goals and stuff like that. So I think there's so much pressure over growth and scale and all this kind of stuff. What does that mean to you? What does success mean to you? It's like, look, that is what you need to work on and stuff like that. No one else can tell you what's right for you.
That's it. That's right. And that's what, again, we were saying earlier, is when some people will think, I must grow, I must get to this, or they're being told, you must do this, you must employ people, you must scale, and sometimes they hold their hands up in horror, and that actually causes more stress than where they are already. So it's determining, with anything like the things that we do with people, the consultancy and stuff that we do, it's determining, where do you want to be? Because it's not my business, it's your business. Where do you want your business to be?
There's a story there, man. We're going to talk about yourself, and I'm sorry if this is personal, right? But we're kind of put you on the spot now. But I know we've talked about it where, many moons ago, you had a franchise that you just like, I want to get out of this. It's not for me. This isn't right for me. And actually removing yourself, getting out of it, was the biggest challenge going.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a franchise for a network. I was running a network in Reading. And it went really well. I was really enthusiastic. I love networking anyway. So I thought, this is the job for me. And it was very stupid. Again, this is kind of the life goals thing, isn't it? So I was living in Weston-super-Mare, and the network was in Reading. That's a little bit strange. It was 100 miles from door to door, one way.
That's without
So
traffic, right?
yeah, exactly. So it became stupid. But I was able to build up a great network. We had I can't remember how many members we had, but it was really, really good. And I got to a stage where I just said, I can't do this anymore. So I thought about the options I had. So I contacted the franchisors and said, right, can you buy the franchise back off me and can I come out? And they said, oh no, it's down to you. If you want to get out of it, that's your job. So I had to build the business in the first place, market it, do everything it needed, while they took a monthly cut, of course. And then when it came to it that I wanted to pass it on, I had to try and find a buyer and sell it, and I did in the end, but it was really hard work, and I didn't sell it for much in the end.
Really makes me laugh at that sort of point as well, is that I guess with the kind of franchise agreement and stuff like that, is you're in a point where you've basically bought into a business and grown a business. You can't even get rid of it.
No,
you can't even give it away.
Sell it.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, isn't it? Because many businesses are built to sell. That's the whole point of it. You at the end of it, you might have a business for 10 years, and once you've got to a stage where it's really producing, it's got great systems, it's got lots of customers, producing a great income, you say, right, I'm going to sell it, and you sell it for quite a few millions sometimes, even if you've got a really good business going, but not a franchise.
Crazy.
I mean, that network, if it had been mine, was worth selling because there's a lot of members and it was doing really well, but it's not yours. That's what you've got to remember. It's not yours.
So, something that just to kind of pick up on, I think that ties really well in with this whole kind of productivity side and stuff like that, is you're talking about a lot of businesses are built to sell. So they actually started with that end goal that it's going to be sold in 3 or 5 years' time and stuff like that. And I know, talking with you before, that you're kind of believer in this, is that you should set your business up that way anyway.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have the processes and stuff where you can just plug people in and things can change and stuff like that. And I guess just with that kind of clarity on those processes, your productivity becomes a lot easier anyway, because you're going to know what needs to be done. Whereas I think that is part of the problem with some of the productivity, is I think sometimes people have so much to do and some stuff that they don't know how to do, that it just becomes so much stuff. And then we get into that kind of procrastination, I guess, that is sort of just, we're doing something else. And the real reason is probably we just don't know what to do or how to do something.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, going back to your first point, I agree. I've always maintained that when you set up a business, you need to set it up to make it what I would call franchise ready. Okay. Now, that means you've got defined processes, you've got the marketing works, you've got a marketing machine that's really working, generating leads and inquiries. You've got a great process for converting them. You've got a great process for fulfilling them all, and a great process for follow-up. So basically, it becomes a business in a box. It's your business, you've built it, but actually, anytime now you could just take that as a box and give it to someone, and they could run it. The reason for that is, if you want to sell it, people will bite your arm off for it because they can see it's business in a box. But even if you don't want to sell it, it's so easy to run. And it's so easy to run that you can actually get someone else in to run it for you. And you can become you really can have freedom then, because you're still the business owner, but someone's just managing it for you, running, and they're increasing your profits, and they're just running it like clockwork. And that's the whole aim, is to have a self-managing business. And that can be then sold or franchised, because again, it can be then franchised, but whatever you want to do, it becomes a self-managing business.
So true, isn't it? That is what everyone kind of wants to get towards, isn't it?
Yeah, I imagine they would. Otherwise,
the business,
why are they there?
Business works for them, and then they don't actually have to work for the business, they're not the business.
They're not. And this is, again, one of the things I talk about a lot is the whole, going back to the mindset. I ask a lot of people, what is your business? And they say, well, I'm a copywriter, or they may say I'm an accountant. You see, no, you're not. If you're in business, you are a marketer of your business, which is an accountancy business. You can't be your business, because if you are, you're committing yourself to a lifetime of just doing everything. And
there's definitely like some confusion that goes on in the whole kind of marketing world. I think a lot of people are looking at, okay, I need to do more marketing. I need to bring someone in, or I need to outsource and stuff like that. And it's like, you need to build your own sustainable acquisition system.
You do.
I know we've had this before. I branded it up as the SAS strategy.
Yeah.
And kind of map this out. And it's like, look, every business needs this. Then you can outsource, different elements and what needs to be done, because you know the process, you know what's going on, and you know where people come in and how they move through and what's working and what isn't working. Where sometimes people are just so quick at getting rid of it because maybe they don't understand it. Whereas I think sometimes once they understand it, there's more kind of incline then to get involved in and make it work for them.
Yeah, and I think and that's a really, really good point. Is people want to get rid of it, and I think, as you said, because they don't understand it yet, what they fail to understand is that they need to really be on. That's the one thing in your business you need to be on top of. Whether you're getting assistance to do it, you're getting people in to help you with it, but you've still got to be there. Marketing is the life, the oxygen of your business.
I think the big thing as well there is that you get a lot of people in business that they are, I'm going to say claiming, maybe that's unfair to say, but you get a lot of people claiming to be experts, right? And it's like, they're the expert, within a business. And this is the point where, if it's true, right? If you are really good at what you do, and look, we'd take something random, we'd take, say photography, right?
Yeah.
Photography, right?
Yeah.
You're really good at photography. You class yourself as an expert. People need to pay, decent money to get you in to be that expert. Why would you want to just throw away your marketing to someone who doesn't know anything about photography?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, because it's ludicrous, isn't it? It's interesting. I speak to a lot of coaches, and I work with a lot of coaches, especially on the copywriting side, and they aren't good at marketing. Coaches, not many coaches are good at marketing themselves, and it's because they always view themselves as a coach.
Yeah, and that's it. And the point is, what I'm making there is that instead of passing it away to someone who doesn't know about marketing, bring someone in who knows about marketing and work with them. Develop the marketing for your business.
Yeah.
Because as much as someone who does marketing and knows marketing, and it could be someone who specializes in, say, LinkedIn, right? So someone who just specializes in LinkedIn, for them to help you make LinkedIn work for you, they still need your expertise of your industry or what makes you the expert or have that authority to be able then to make it work. Whereas to me, that's a lot of the time where marketing doesn't work for people, is that they've just outsourced it. It's just like, you do that. You know marketing, you do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but all that person is going to do is make you the same as everybody else in the marketing field.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Without your expertise that makes you the difference, you're never going to stand out to be that difference if you're not getting involved to make it work for you.
Yeah. And it's interesting, going back to franchises, because this is really, really interesting. So when I do the business coaching, and I've coached quite a few franchisees, and that's the problem that franchise has, is that they'll say, oh yeah, well the franchise does all my marketing for me, and you look at the copy that they have, and it's so generic and frankly rubbish, that they don't stand out. So the first thing a franchisee needs to do is, if they, within the confines of the franchise, and that's also a problem sometimes, is set themselves up as not being the franchise, but being, I am me, the person, whatever it is, and I have this franchise business, but I am not the franchise. Because you get, especially with an awful lot of VAs who are, I think, I can't remember, there's the smart PA, that's a huge franchise. And you have all these people, I'm a smart PA. And straight away, you've lumped yourself into this kind of morass of people. And you say, yeah, but who are you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Is that even though they follow, say, a franchise, or they follow the business model and stuff like that, and do you know what? Sometimes those business models work, sometimes they don't. I'm not going to say they don't work, because some of them do, but it's actually the person that makes it work, So it's like you said, you can have two different people who, they're saying that from the same company and they do the same things, but really, one is just so much better at something, that can help you with such and such, where the other one is actually their skills is in something else. And it's like, I think that comes down to even just with business marketing. I think one of the biggest tricks that I see businesses that they make a mistake on is when they have employees, and those employees are experts, and it's like they need to be marketing themselves, and the business. Right? Whereas what the business tries to do is they get them to market the business. And it's like all you're doing then is you're just another cog in that wheel of marketing the business, which is great. But people buy from people. And like, you know what? There can be all these different people within the business, and maybe the kind of the head sort of honcho of the business is that maybe people just don't resonate with that person, but they will resonate with the account manager. And it's like, it's such a big mistake that I see a lot of these businesses making, that they can really get involved. And even, we're getting onto all different kind of subjects now and stuff like that. But even just the person in business who is really good at what they do, but maybe they don't want to put themselves out there, in the marketing kind of way. And it's like, they're missing out on that opportunity to get more clients and get the business that they want. Because they're a bit reluctant of putting themselves out there.
But isn't that ironic? And I guess it is ironic, and it's difficult because a lot of people fall into this trap, as I did when I first started, is that they think, oh, I'm going to leave my job because I'm going to set up business to beat whatever they are, because I don't like marketing. And you think, well, hang on, if you don't like marketing, don't go into business, because that's the first thing you've got to do. And you've got to know what you want. And there's also, you can have someone to help you, but you've got to be involved. You can't just say, I don't like marketing, so I'm going to set up my business. And then going back to coaches, unfortunately, a lot of them, that's what they've done, is they've said, I'm going to become a coach. And they have no clue about marketing.
I mean, we both know people who are just so good at what they do, and that their business hasn't worked, and they've gone off back into a job or something like that. And it all comes back down to marketing. That's all it comes down to. And it's such a shame that people are missing out on working with that person. Because they couldn't just make the business work for them within the time that they needed or something.
And as you said, there are so many people who are really skilled, really excellent, and they've, as I say, they've become disillusioned with themselves, really, because they, once they have this perceived failure, they think, oh, I couldn't set up a business. It's kind of, it affects their mindset again. It goes back to think, oh, perhaps I'm not good enough.
What's really interesting now, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but something just to kind of pick up on that there as well, is that we're talking about that with that whole kind of thing of someone going into a business or whatever to, set up for themselves to have that kind of freedom, is that you have to be your biggest promoter, right? You have to back yourself and do that kind of thing. But I also think that needs to happen within a business for the employees. So if someone who is in a job, they actually have to go above and beyond their job of actually just doing their job, is that they need to create that bit of a personal brand and do their own thing, to do their own marketing, to bring it in. And I believe that that's so true, that people have to do that. But what I think happens a lot of the time is that people are capped by their business about what they can do.
Okay.
Right? I was talking to a guy, actually, we're going back, we were going back to the start of the year or back to last year, and he was working in a business. And we were just talking about something or whatever. And I said about LinkedIn, and I was like, maybe you can put like this kind of stuff and that kind of stuff out, and that they were in business development. And I said, maybe you have to check with the company, to make sure you can do that. And they just said, why? Like, LinkedIn's my thing. LinkedIn's my brand. Just because I work for the company, they don't own my LinkedIn. And I was just like, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because people leave jobs and people go to different jobs, and it's like, what you're doing on LinkedIn is you're actually building your own personal brand. You're using that brand to leverage where you are at the minute with the business, but actually that brand becomes really valuable. Because you can go to another business and still leverage that audience that from that brand that you've built up. And it's like we do that in business anyway. But I'm just thinking from that kind of employee stand, is that, I think some businesses sometimes is that they're scared to do that, or to let people have that kind of free reign. One, maybe they could do something that puts the business in a bad light, but I don't think that really happens that often to make it.
I don't.
But I think what they're more scared of is that person becomes successful, and then possibly that they look at leaving. And there's that quote. I think it's from Virgin. Richard Branson, and I think if someone says, oh, what if we train people up and they leave? And it's like, well, what if we train them up and they stay? What if we don't train them up and they stay?
Yes.
And it's like it's very true, isn't it? And I was listening to something back last week where it said about it was that kind of concept. It was like, what if we invest all this time and money training someone up and then they decide to go? And it's like this person was like, they're meant to. That's the whole point, is that they're meant to evolve. And they were talking of it with like American football, with the whole kind of college setup. And I guess it works for the same if we looked at, say, youth teams within football over here. Is that, and I guess the same with like kind of apprentices and stuff, is that you train people up to a certain level that they move on to a certain level and stuff like that. Whereas in your business, maybe they can move up, maybe they can do different things. But if there is a level, it's like that they're never going to stay for life. We're past that.
No.
You have to use them to your advantage within this time.
Yeah.
To work for you and give them all the tools and support that they need to do so.
Yeah. And how much will they appreciate you if you've really helped them evolve? Because ultimately it's the same as anything, isn't it? We were talking again, something we've been talking about before, is you set up in business. Yes, of course you want to make money, and of course you want to do this and have a lifestyle. But really, you set in business to add value to others, and that could be your employees as well. If you if you have a business where you take people on, but unless you're adding value, it doesn't matter. This is the other thing. Unless you're adding value, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. You're not going to sell anything because you're not standing above. So the whole thing is you've got to be looking around and say, well, I do this, and then I've got 1,000 other people that do the same. So what can I add that's extra? How can I go the extra mile? How can I stand out by being someone better than not better, being someone different than the rest, and stand? And also, it's like where's Wally, isn't it? So you look for Wally, and he's got the T-shirt on.
There is something that I'm planning at the moment. I know we're looking at doing some stuff within kind of stuff that we could offer and everything, but part of that kind of way to make people understand is the where's Wally kind of setup, because I think at the minute for any kind of business, they take to, say, social media, or they take to Google, whatever it is that they're trying to do to leverage that front end of lead generation, and it is just the case of you're competing with everybody else. And it is just like, where's Wally? It's like, people are just looking, they just see a load of stuff, and it's like, where is the person I need? And it's like, the tactics and strategies that we've spoke about before, is that, well, okay, but that's how you can do it. We know how to do it, but it is that way of it. It's just where's Wally and stuff. And come back to what you said then about, maybe not so much being better. Like, to me, that's what it's all about. It's all about being better. It's all about playing to win, because as much as, do you know what, play for like your hobbies and stuff like that. Do you know what, you're playing to be part of the game and, have fun and all that kind of stuff. But in business, look, we want it to work for us, but we want the results. We want to play to win.
You are right. It's again, a mentor I had a few years back, and has always said that, that business is a game. And it's like Monopoly. When he first learned Monopoly, he didn't want to just play the game. He wanted to win. He wanted to find out, what is it I need to do to win? So his strategy was, I win the game. Whatever I've got to do, I win the game. And obviously he's really competitive. But again, sometimes you have to be. You have to start in business. You say, well, I want to just eke out a living. But unfortunately, you have to be being better than other people so that you can do more than just give yourself a living. Because why would you, again, with all the stress involved, like we were saying earlier, why would you leave a sort of a monthly paycheck and leave a business, unless of course you're made redundant, but why would you leave a business and go out and set yourself up on your own to be mediocre? Doesn't make any sense.
It's like that's the thing, and it's like, do you know what, it's not even about being the best kind of person within in your market, or growing a business to be the best business within in the market in regards to size or anything like that. It's just about being the best at what you can do. So whatever you can deliver, whatever it is, that kind of setup that you have, be the best at doing that, and be number one at providing that. And I love that, mate, what you're talking about Monopoly, and that we've spoke about it before being like chess. So we talk about business, and we talk about especially marketing, but just about business is that, look, you know, the whole kind of end goal within chess, the whole kind of outcome is to get to checkmate, right?
Yeah.
You know, is this to checkmate the king?
Yeah.
And it's like for any kind of business, is that you have to know what that objective is for you. What is that king? You know, that you're working to win the game. And then it is just those pieces on the board and understanding the board and how things move around. You know, we kind of got that concept where, you know, we're talking about, okay, look, you need to know the pieces.
Yeah.
To play the game.
Yeah.
You know,
and be good at and become good at the game.
And that's it. Yeah. And it's
like how you use those pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that, you know, you do have to you know, just become good at those kind of pieces and understand those pieces to be able to, you know, win the game. It's like that. That's the thing. Is like, but and that's when we talked about before about kind of the marketing strategies and stuff like that. Is that once we know the strategy, we can control the game. We can move it in a way where it works for us.
And do you know, it's interesting because almost coming back to the productivity thing. You know, one of the things we were talking about the journaling is that once you've put a few things in play, like this, you know, in the chess, and chess players do this all the time. After a game, they'll spend hours thinking, right, what did I do? Was I successful? How did it work? What could I have done better? And this is where the end of the day journaling comes in. You say, right, okay, what happened today? What went well? What didn't go so well? What could be better? And there's a lovely thing from Jim Rohn, and I think he preaches this in most of his books, so it's not confined to one book. But he's saying on the whole productivity thing is that, you know, he's again the advocate of the 90-minute chunks. At the end of the week, at the end of the day, you take a bit of time, an hour a day maybe, just to sit down, journal what went well, what didn't go well, where could I improve? And that's really, because life is you're constantly learning and improving. So where can I improve? And then at the end of the week, you maybe take an afternoon, a Sunday afternoon or something with the same thing. How did the week go? And what went well, except same questions, really. So they're always the same questions. And how can I improve? And what did I learn as well? That's the other thing. What did I learn? And then again, is saying at the end of the month, you maybe take a day, and say, okay, what have I learned throughout that month? Again, what went well, etc. Same thing after a quarter. You maybe take out maybe a weekend or something, or just whatever, however much time it takes. And then at the end of the year, and his big thing, a big quote from him, which really resonated with me, was, don't just get through the day, learn from the day.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that is, whoa, okay, I understand. And that was, to me, that's what I always do. And I think everybody, not just in business, in life generally, that's what we need to do. Because if we want to get to somewhere, we need to become that person so if we want a £1 million business, we need to become the people who can run £1 million business. 100%. And this is the problem with lottery owners. Like, with, you know, people win the lottery. When they win, they go from a job that maybe paid them, I don't know, 1,800 quid a month, suddenly win 23 million. Their mindset, that's way, they can't even write the amount of noughts down that is that figure. So what happens in a year's time, they're back to earning 1,800 quid in the job, or maybe even bankrupt.
It's interesting. I mean, from what you said there, mate, I mean, that kind of evaluation is what's needed. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we talk about kind of just from business and marketing strategy, for example. You know, with what I do is that, we're always looking at a quarter. You know, so we're always looking at that kind of 3 months or that 90 days, and then we're working backwards to what needs to be put in place. Yeah. And obviously we're obviously evaluating that all the time, because, you know, things can change, things can tweak and move, of course, stuff like that. But the whole point there is, you know, what's going on. Yeah. You know what's working and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's so simple, but it just takes that kind of momentum, or just those kind of steps to get started. Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe that's it. Maybe we need to put something together like that to help people just, you know, take that next step. I think we could. I think we really could. I love it. Just that thing. Yeah, just that whole kind of productivity, and going back to like what you were saying with the kind of the 90-minute chunks. I mean, I learned that from you, mate. And it's like, it just works so well. It just makes such a big difference. And it's like, just, giving that kind of education to someone to actually just try that, just to try your day in a different way, rather than it being, okay, look, I've got all this stuff on today, what should I do now? Just the night before, just put 4 different chunks, 1.5 hours each, or maybe even shorter or longer, whatever kind of works for you.
What works, that's right, that's what works.
And just working it in a way where it's like, right, okay, I'm going to do this at my most productive time and get that done, mate.
And interestingly, something you said about at the very beginning, have you been in business 5 years, or have you been running the same business every year for 5 years? And this is where the Jim Rohn thing really works. So if you evaluate your quarters and your years, you won't be running the same business the next year. It'll be different. You'll have learned something and put something else in place. So you actually are starting to grow your business. So again, the way you want to and the way you're comfortable with, but you will be growing it. You will be making improvements to it.
I know the stuff that you used to do with business coaching, and the stuff that I do with marketing strategies, where it works really well, is that, I call it strategic marketing, just to make that whole kind of point, is that we are looking at it being, a certain time frame and a certain outcome. And what that usually does is come back to a year. And we look at the business goal, what they're working towards, what they're trying to get to, and the revenue goal as well. And then we divide that by the budget and the resources that they have available to work for them. And it's like that there is, we're looking at a year, and then we're coming back to the next quarter. And it's like, that's what we're really working on, is that next quarter, because we want to win. We want to win the game. We want to move those pieces around the board to get to that point where it's like that first quarter, we succeeded in what we needed to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we're working towards that, like you said before, is that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So we're always moving forward each quarter to make that happen.
Yeah, that's right. And it becomes, and the whole, the thing about the momentum is once you understand that and you review it, and you understand that you can improve what you're doing and be better and become better, is that's within your control as to how fast you want to go or how slow you want to go. But you need to always go forward.
Always move forward, mate. I love it. That's
always move forward. Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's, do you know what, just before we kind of wrap things up, is that I think sometimes people don't necessarily want to do things in a defensive way, or in a way where they are just sustaining or doing something like that. But actually, that's still a move forward.
Yeah.
You're still making those moves forward by doing those things.
Yeah.
That even though it may seem like it's a step backwards or something like that, is that actually you still are moving forward, because you're making smart decisions and putting smart pieces in place.
Exactly right. Yeah. You're evaluating all the time. Yeah. And that's what the measuring of business is all about, isn't it? The reason you need to measure in business is because you're evaluating what worked, what didn't. Do I need to take a step back? Do I need to take a step sideways? Can I try something else if this isn't working? But it's all about, you have to be constantly thinking about what the next move is. And again, coming back to the whole chess analogy, what's my next move? And is it the right move, or should I adopt a different strategy that maybe I can bring that one in and move somewhere else? What's going to be the most effective to get to my king, is the objective.
That's it, man. That's totally it. I think that's where we'll wrap up today's meeting.
And
I've already decided, mate, what we're going to talk about next week, right? So you just said about evaluating. So we're going to talk about evaluating and innovation, and we're going to talk about the Thomas Edison story that you told me.
Oh yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
So we'll get into that, man. That there is a cracker. I think someone who maybe just things aren't clicking how they need to click right now. I think that story just makes people just understanding that.
Yeah. Watch this space for the next.
Exactly. So we'll leave it there, Mark. It's always been a pleasure.
Yeah. Indeed.
And we'll catch you next time.
Indeed. Yeah. Great stuff. Cheers, Jamie.